All right, guys. As promised, I said I was going to do a post-mortem video on the all-wheel drive conversion on the 3000 GT. Um, First, I wanted to open this video off with some previous videos that I've taken about the weight on this car. I know you hear a lot of mixed things online that the VR4 is 500 to 600 pounds heavier than the front-wheel drive. It's not worth doing the conversion because of the added weight. But let's jump into these couple videos to see what the car weighed before and after. All right, to kick this project off, we're going to get a weight on the car, see what it is before we do this all-wheel drive swap. And 3520 is the starting weight. All right, guys, here we go. All-wheel drive conversion complete. Gonna settle the debate on how much weight change it adds to your car. 3520 was what I was before. 3740. So 220 pounds gained. So as you can see from those two little video clips I put in there, I only gained 220 pounds on the car. So me personally, I weighed about the same. I weigh about 180 pounds. Had just a hair over a half a tank of gas both times, but that was weighed on a certified truck scale. Now, the things that I will include about the weight is I didn't do the all-wheel steering, so that wasn't added on there. I did build new control arms, but those are probably about the same weight as the factory. I only built new ones because the old ones were in bad shape and I didn't want to refurbish them. And I have a two-piece carbon fiber drive shaft, which doing the front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive conversion, it's easier to do the two-piece drive shaft. So I probably saved a little bit of weight there, but it's not really much to, that's going to amount to a whole lot. So 220 pound weight difference going from front wheel drive to all wheel drive, I felt like was worth the sacrifice in my mind. So let's get into talking about money. So I ended up purchasing all of my components from a guy down in Georgia, almost 2 years ago. That's how long it's been that I've been working on this project, and made a good friend in this individual. We still talk to this day. I paid $2,500 for the transmission, the transfer case. I did get the three-piece drive shaft, even though I didn't use it. Got the whole rear subframe with the rear suspension. Got everything basically that I needed. Paid $2,500 for all of it. Then I ended up giving additional money because I bought the coilovers and a dual core radiator that I used the coilovers, but I still haven't put the radiator in. So I guess I would say the forever looming question on should I do an all-wheel drive conversion if I have a front-wheel drive? I will say right out of the gate, no, it's not worth it. It's not saving you any money, and it's not, as you can tell from my different videos I've done, it's not an easy task. It's not a bolt-on. I went and I bought this and I bolted it on the car and now I'm all-wheel drive. There's a lot of fabrication. I will say, so I'm yes and no on this, because I will say yes, I would do it again, only because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I always say it's a labor of love. I enjoy doing out of the ordinary type stuff that challenges me from a fabrication standpoint. It gets my brain thinking. Stuff like that gets me excited to do unique stuff. But if you're just looking for making your car all-wheel drive because you want an all-wheel drive car, definitely not worth it in my mind. So not only did I spend $2,500 on the parts, but there was so much more stuff I ended up having to buy and do. One thing, if you were going to tackle this, and I don't want to discourage anybody from doing that, is make sure that you start with good parts. Nothing against, the guy I bought these parts from, but the parts had come off of a car that had a lot of rust on it, so I had to do a lot of sandblasting. I had to replace a lot of the rubber pieces. As you guys seen in probably part 1 or part 2, the rear differential had issues. The rear axle was snapped on it, so I had to buy a new rear axle. So a lot of prep work went into the parts before I ever even got started. And when you're doing a lot of prepping and cleaning up and sandblasting and painting, yeah, it doesn't cost a lot of money. I might have $100 or so in doing all of that. But it takes a lot of time. I spent weeks getting this stuff ready before I even started tackling the car. So start with good parts to begin with. And that's hard to say. These cars are old. So the parts you find are probably going to be rusted. They're going to have bolts that are messed up on them. And so just know that going into it. Nothing's ever easy, especially when it comes to working on these cars. So now that we got that out of the way, we got how much money I spent just on the parts, and we got all of the prep work. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this. So not only did I buy the 2-piece carbon fiber drive shaft, I had to buy a new clutch. So I don't have a little fancy spreadsheet that I can post up here, but I bought a new clutch. That was probably $300-400. I ended up having to redo my exhaust because I had long tube headers. The long tube headers hit the transfer case, so that sent me into redoing a stainless steel exhaust system that I wasn't planning or budgeting for. Then all the fluids for the transfer case, the differential, the transmission, that's another $100-something. There's a lot of little miscellaneous things. Like I replaced a lot of fasteners with stainless steel fasteners. I had to buy the metal to do the strut tower relocation. So I would safely say, because that drive shaft was $1,000, that I started with $2,500. I probably have about $5,000 total in doing this conversion, and that's with me basically doing everything myself. I don't think I've paid anybody that I can think of offhand to do anything on this. So you're looking easily $5,000. You're probably closer to $7,000 if you did a 6-speed. I did a 5-speed out of a 93, so it had the 25 spline output shaft. But if you went 6-speed, those parts are even more expensive. So when you're talking, $5,000 for a 5-speed, $7,000 for a 6-speed conversion, you're probably better off buying an old VR4 that needs some work done to it. Whether you find a VR4 that's got a bad motor in it, those might be out there, or even finding a VR4 that's wrecked in the front end. If you had a front-wheel drive car, you're probably better off to take your front-wheel drive parts off to make the VR4 whole than you are to do this conversion. So you do this conversion just because you want the challenge, not because it's easy or it's going to save you money in the long run, because it's not. So with all that being said, I listed a lot of the challenges I had with this, and one of the other things I had to buy was new front axles. I mentioned in one of my videos that I went into this thinking I could reuse my front axles, and yeah, the splines on the axles worked, but the half shaft was too short and the axles were too long on the front wheel drive. So you got to get, not only do you have to get a subframe with a good rear end on it and rear axles, you have to relocate your rear strut towers, which is a lot of work. You don't have to. I would recommend that you do that for the ride of the car and keeping things symmetrical. And then, I mentioned you gotta get new front axles. You could run this with, the front spindles and front SL or NA brake rotors and brake calipers. You could do that. I had some previous videos where I converted this car over to VR4 Gen 1 brakes initially, which required a new knuckle, new bearings, and then the brake disc and the caliper, and then I later went to the Gen 2. But at some point I'm going to do a video on this because I'm going to upgrade the brakes again. pretty much done doing videos on any more modifications on this car. I'm really toying with the idea of redoing my supercharger, just because I have some ideas of how I can make it even better than what it is, making it more efficient, increasing more boost on the car, because I'm running 9 to 10 psi now. If I do get into that, I'll come back and do a video on it, but videoing on the brake system, I'll probably do that, because I just bought a Ford Explorer Sport, and I've been doing a lot of measuring on them, and the front brake rotors will fit this car. I want to do a big brake conversion on this new vehicle, which I'll transition and do some vehicles on this new Ford Explorer I got. It's the twin turbo all-wheel drive. But if I upgrade the brakes on it, I'm going to take the brake rotors off that, move them over here, and then relocate the brake calipers to accept even a bigger brake rotor. That then I could take my 5mm spacers out of the front and bring the front wheels in just a little bit more. So really, at the end of it, drivability, the car drives really good. You know, no traction issues, as you can imagine, with it being all-wheel drive, but you know, drives good. The transmission shifts good. I haven't had it back to the dyno. I did convert the car back to 93. I've been running it on E85 for every bit of a year and a half now, and I switched it to 93 because it's wintertime here in Kentucky, and you know, the car mostly sits through the wintertime, so I figured it's probably better for it to sit with 93 in it than E85. So I've been playing with my tune a little bit on that. You know, basically took my E85 tune and I'm converting it back to a 93. Been doing some data logs. I'm getting a little bit of knock, you know, probably 2,500, 3,000 RPM when I start to roll into the gas. So I'm gonna, you know, play with the timing a little bit and clean that up. But for the most part, it's running pretty good. And, you know, I don't regret doing this project at all. You know, I enjoyed the challenge, you know, making the stainless steel control arms. You know, that was fun. Doing all the cutting and welding on the car, that was actually fun, even though, you know, an old man like myself, I'm 49 now, laying underneath the car because I don't have a lift. As you can see, my garage is not very big. Laying underneath the car and rolling around, that was not the funnest, but, you know, the whole process kind of made up for that. And I guess lastly, I modified my exhaust since the last video. You know, I did a Flowmaster FX and two knockoff Flowmaster FXs at the rear. Although it sounded good, everyday driving on it, for me anyways, it was just way too loud. It was a little bit drony on the inside of the car. And, you know, I don't know. I don't like that loud of exhaust in my older age, but I ended up keeping everything the same. The only thing I did was I added two vibrant ultra quiet resonators in the system as well. And now I think the exhaust is probably perfect on it for me. It still has the same tone, it's just not as loud because it is a straight through design. So the sound is, you know, still there. But yeah, I think that's about it. I didn't make a list of notes I wanted to go over with you guys. I just kind of wanted to touch on the highlights, mainly on the cost, you know, of what this thing costed. The biggest thing that I wanted to find out was what the weight difference was. So 220 pounds, that's not bad for, you know, going to an all-wheel drive. But, you know, it is a lot of work. And, you know, if you ever want to venture down this road, man, hit me up and, you know, I'll share, you know, pros and cons, give you some pointers. And, you know, you already seen I did my mounts different. I ended up not using any of the VR4 mounts. You know, kind of made my own mounts. You know, paved my own way on that. You know, I'm sure maybe somebody else out there's done that, but there's not many videos out there. You know, everything that I've read and seen online, you know, is that you reuse the mounts from the VR4. Seeing guys not, and there's a big diesel truck driving by, so it's a little loud. I've seen guys not relocate the strut towers, and I've seen a guy do a write-up where he replaced the whole fender well, and that's a lot of work, you know, so kudos to that guy for doing that. So in my mind, just making new strut towers was the easiest thing to do, and you know, probably a couple days had all that knocked out. So So again, overall, I would personally do it again. I wouldn't recommend anybody else do it unless you just love this kind of stuff and just want a challenge. And again, don't do it because cost savings, because there ain't no cost savings involved in this, especially when you get into touching rusty bolts and whatnot. And if you're anything like me, I can't put a rusty bolt back in. I got to replace it, and then there starts the nickeling, diming of, you know, this cost of this project getting out of hand. So hope you guys enjoyed the series. If you haven't seen the series, go back and look. I think there's, I don't know, like 6 parts to it. They're kind of all over the place, but you know, you'll get the idea after you watch them. You know, look for, you know, a bigger brake rotor video on this one, and then we'll transition over to my Ford Explorer Sport. You know, there's some things I want to do to it, like the exhaust system, lowering springs, painting the wheels on it, you know, more aesthetic type stuff. But that'll be a fun project too. So again, if you guys haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment, questions, concerns, whatever, man, I'm here. So we'll catch you guys on the next one.